Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's accounting lesson. My name is Sifiso Buthelezi. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saipono Discovery Center. Today, grade 12 accounting learners, we're just going to be focusing on paper 2 revision. As I've said, my name is Sifiso Buthelezi. Now, the objectives of the lesson is for now to look at our bank reconciliation statement. Also, you should know how to prepare the creditor's reconciliation statement. Going to the next slide. Now we have 3 types of reconciliations. We'll explain what is to reconcile, what is a reconciliation. The first one, we're having what we call as bank reconciliation. The second one, we have creditors reconciliation. And then the third one, we have debtors reconciliation. Grade 12s, please remember, all of them may be assessed, or 2 of them may be assessed, so you need to know all of them. Our next slide. Now, we are explaining what we mean by bank reconciliation. Now, this is a process of comparing the financial records of the business that we are referring to our cash receipt journal, our cash payment journal, against the statement received from the bank. Now, why do we need to reconcile? This is the question that you may find on your final exam. Why do we do bank reconciliation? Why do we do creditors reconciliation? Why do we do debtors reconciliation? Now, the first reason, the most important reason, we are trying to identify errors or mistakes. We are trying to identify omissions or exclusions. We are trying to identify fraud. We're also trying to verify accuracy of all transactions recorded. Because if we don't do that, we may lose money and then people may steal from us. Now, the reason why we are reconciling again, it is because our bank statement is not the same as our business cash at our bank account. Now, therefore, we have to do bank reconciliation. Now, next slide. There are terminologies that we use. We have our jargon that we use in accounting. We are talking about unfavorable balance, or sometimes we call it as bank overdraft. Now, we're having 2 sets of records. We're having the business records. We also have the bank records. Now, on the business records, our unfavorable balance will be recorded on the credit side of that bank account. And then also, we will find our EFTs, our payments, which will increase our balance. Now, but then the bank will do an opposite of what we are doing, because an expense of someone is an income of someone. When we record on the debit side, the bank will record on the credit side. When we record on the credit side, the bank will record on the debit side. Now, the unfavorable balance in the bank statement, you will find it on the debit side. Together with the withdrawals, together with the payments, EFTs, all of those, the debit orders, you find them on the debit side. But in our books, you find that on the credit side. Because if we have money at the bank, it means the bank owes us. If we owe the bank, it means the bank has money. So an asset of someone is also a liability of someone. Moving forward, we will look at now at activity 1. Now, this activity will cater for bank reconciliation. It is extracted from Free State Trial Exam 2022. Now, let us look at the information. Grade 12s, let us read together. 1.2, Masala Traders. The information relates to June 2022. The business receives its official statements on the 25th day of each month. Now, what is required from us now? 1.2.1, we are required to complete the CRJ, that is cash payment journal, money in. We are required to calculate, to complete cash payment journal, that is money out. That is on 30 June 2022. Number 2, we are also required to calculate the correct bank balance in the ledger on 30 June 2022. And then after calculating that, we need to indicate whether the balance is favorable or unfavorable. Now, grade 12s, remember, bank favorable is a debit side, bank unfavorable is a credit side. 1.2.2, we are required to prepare the bank reconciliation statement on 30 June 2022. 1.2.3, see information H, and then we need to answer the question, explain why the internal auditor would be concerned, provide figures. Remember, grade 12s, if they say provide figures, please do provide figures because it means those figures carry marks. Now, and you need to explain what actions he or the owner should take. We given information A here. The following bank reconciliation was prepared on the 31st of May 2022. Grade 12, remember again, you are given the previous bank reconciliation for many reasons. Now, grade 12, balances per bank statement, we do not record it. It's the balance for the previous month. We do not record it. Outstanding deposits, we'll await and see what they are saying on our additional information regarding that. And in our outstanding EFTs, we will also await and see what they are saying regarding that. Correction of error, they need to give us direction on what is happening. And then balances per bank account, grade 12, this is very, very important. Balances per bank account, very important. Remember, this bank account balance becomes your opening balance when you do your bank account. As you can see, it is showing on the credit side of the bank reconciliation. It means that this money will now become will be on our credit side of our bank account. So it is unfavorable. So we're having an unfavorable bank balance. Now, on the exam, they may not give you this money. How do we get it if it's not given? Because you need it to do your bank account. Remember, the first question, the second point on our question was saying do bank account. You will have to take your debit figures, that is 87,150 plus 16,850, and then you subtract 22,700, that is on the credit side, correction of error. You also subtract 31,600. Then you get your 49,700. What are we learning here, grade 12s? We use the previous bank reconciliation to get an opening balance of the bank account. Now, we will move forward. We are given totals, provisional totals given to us before other adjustments. We have for the CRJ, it's 47,220, CPJ 97,880. Now, information C, when comparing the May reconciliation statement to the June 2022 bank statement, the following was noticed. Now, let's read together, grade 12s. The first point is saying the outstanding EFT number 555, outstanding deposit, and the correction of error were correctly reflected on the June bank statement. Grade 12, please remember, our main aim here is to have items, to have figures correctly appearing on the journals and also correctly appearing on the bank statement. If we have that case, then we do not record. It's mission accomplished. So for this, we can say no entry. We won't be recording these two. If you'll remember, this is coming from our previous bank reconciliation, EFT 55, as well as correction of error. Just gonna go backwards a little bit so that everyone can see. EFT number 555. There it is. Correction of error 22,700. There it is. Okay, they're saying all of these appear. They are correctly reflected on the bank statement. Moving forward, we have information D. The following items on June bank statement did not appear on the June cash journals. Rule for bank reconciliation. Items only appearing on the bank statement correctly, so we need to record them on our journals. I'm going to repeat grade 12s. Items only appearing on the bank statement correctly should be recorded on the respective CRJ or CPJ on the cash journals. Right, so we're having these items EFT from KZN promotion for commission and then we have monthly debit order in favor of Farcall for cell phone charges 2.8. We have a deposit of 23,000 appeared in the current account of Masala Traders on 24 June 2022. The deposit has been identified as an error made by the bank. The bank has agreed to correct the error on the July bank statement. Grade 12, we are going to be analyzing each and every transaction. We will also show you how it is recorded. Now, cash deposit fees, service fees, interest on debit balance. Now, we also have some items on the June bank statement which did not appear on the cash journals. Continuation, a debit card entry for wages 11,000 which was recorded on the statement. A debit order for 10,570 in favor of Vodacell for cell phone purchases. Masala Traders did not deal with the service provider and informed the bank immediately. The bank agreed to rectify this entry on the July 2022 bank statement. Now, we're moving forward. The following bank reconciliation was prepared. This is the one for the previous month. Now, information C, we're having what we had earlier. Now, grade 12s, remember, for information B, the first thing that you start with when you do your cash payment, cash receipt, you start by recording your totals. Now, it means that on CRJ, it's 47,220. It will be given to you, 47,220. And then for CPJ, it's 97,860. This is your starting point. Now, moving forward. Now, we are now going to analyze each and every transaction and show you how are you supposed to record it in the relevant books of the business. Right. For D, the following items on the June bank statement did not appear on the cash journals. Now, remember the first rule. If it's correctly on the bank statement, correctly shown on the bank statement, but not on the journals, you need to record it on the journals. Right, EFT received from KZN promotion for commission and 36,400. Now remember, EFT received, this is money in. Remember what I said to you? Money in is CRJ, money out is CPJ. Now we received money, this is why you see it on your CRJ, cash payment journal. So this will be the second figure after the total. Next one, we have a monthly debit order. Grade 12s, we see the word debit order. At the back of our mind, we think of cash payment journal. We think of a payment. But we still need to read the whole thing. Remember, if I see debit order at the back of my mind, I think cash payment. I think paying. Monthly debit order in favor of FAR call for cell phone charges, 2,800. Now, let's see how this is recorded. This should be shown on the cash payment journal. As I've told you, debit order, it means we are paying. It's an arrangement we made with our bank to pay a certain account on our behalf. So it's going to be 2,800. We're adding this figure on our cash payment journal. Moving forward, the following items on the June 2022 bank statement did not appear in the cash journals. Like I've said, grade 12s, if an item is not on the cash journals but is correctly on the bank statement, we record in the respective cash journal. Now, a deposit of 23,000 appeared in the current account of Masala Traders on 24 June 2022. The deposit has been identified as an error made by the bank. As it says here, it's an error made by the bank. So it is not the business problem. Now, another rule for bank reconciliation, if a bank makes an error, that should be corrected on the bank reconciliation. Remember, it's bank correction statement. Bank reconciliation statement. Now, the bank has agreed to correct the error in the July bank statement. Now, the correct entry here, you go to your bank reconciliation statement. Obviously, we will start with our balances per bank statement. We observe the format, followed by the outstanding deposit that should be credited, outstanding EFTs that should be debited, followed by this entry. Now, why do we record this entry on the debit side? This is because this deposit was previously entered. This was previously entered on the credit side. Now, to correct something that has been entered on one side, we need to record on the other side. If something has been recorded, if an amount has been recorded on the credit side, to correct it or to get rid of it, we need to record on the debit side. As long as it doesn't belong to the business. Right, so here, check the statement what we are saying. This is debit amount incorrectly recorded or incorrectly credited. Now, moving forward, we have cash deposit fees, 1,250. Let's see how we're supposed to enter this cash deposit fees. Remember, if we see the word fees, we think of charges. If we're doing a proper cash receipt or cash payment journal, we're going to record this on the cash payment journal as bank charges. Right, it's 1,250 on the cash payment because we pay for these fees. Now, we're having service fees, 880. We also record this amount on the cash payment journal. Remember, in practical sense, grade 12s, you will not separate the fees. You will add them together and call them as bank charges. Meaning, you will add 1,250 plus 880 and then you record them as bank charges on your cash payment journal. Interest on debit balance. Remember the principle of materiality. Don't forget the GAAP principles. The principle of materiality, it states that the interest must be recorded separate from the fees, from the bank charges. Now, this is why interest on debit balance, we will show it separate when we are recording. We are observing the principle of materiality. Important items are recorded separate. So we're having interest on debit balance. Remember, debit balance means CPJ, but credit interest on credit balance means CRJ. Just want to talk about this for a minute. Debit balance, if they are not saying this, they can say interest on overdraft. They can say interest on unfavorable balance. Please remember that grade 12s, if they don't say interest on debit balance, it's interest on overdraft or interest on unfavorable balance. Maybe next time you may be given interest on credit balance. You must know that should be recorded in the cash receipt journal. If they don't say interest on credit balance, they would say interest on favorable, interest on savings, interest on fixed deposit, interest on current account. Right, grade 12, let's move on. The following items on the June bank statement did not appear in the cash journal. A debit card entry to withdraw cash for wages for 11,000 was recorded on the statement. Now, just look at how we're supposed to record this. Remember the word withdraw. Remember, when you are learning, please do active learning. Underline what is important. The word withdraw of cash, I already think I am paying. Before I can even record, I think of payments. There is cash payment journal. Now, cash payment journal, we are recording this amount as 11,000. We withdraw this money. It was a debit card entry. Remember, when you swipe, you won't know in your business immediately up until you receive your bank statement. Information D. The following items on the June 2022 bank statement did not appear in the June cash journals. A debit order for 10,570 dated 24 June 2022 in favor of Vodacell for cell phone purchases. Masala Traders did not deal with this service provider. As you can see, did not deal and informed the bank immediately. The bank agreed to rectify, to correct. So now, if the bank agrees to correct, it also means that it is now the problem of the bank. So once the bank agrees to rectify, I think of the bank reconciliation statement. I think of the bank correction statement. Moving forward, now let's see how this is recorded. So now we will have the entry recorded there. Remember the 23,000 was that for the deposit. Now we're having this entry. Remember, why are we recording 10,570 on the credit side, grade 12s? Please remember, a debit order is initially entered on the debit side. To correct it, you need to enter it on the credit side if it's a wrong debit order. Now, this is the reason why we enter the amount on the credit side. Same thing applies with the 23,000. Remember, it was initially entered on the credit side. To correct it, we enter on the debit side of the bank reconciliation. Moving forward, we're having information E. Differences noted when January's and June bank statements were compared. Now, an EFT of 15,300 was recorded in the cash payment journal with an incorrect beneficiary. So we're having an incorrect beneficiary. This is incorrect recording. And this is an EFT. The bank will rectify this on the next statement. So you need to correct that particular error. Now, check what is happening here. A CPJ amount was recorded with an incorrect beneficiary. So when we record it, we will record it under cash payment journal as 15,300. Remember, if we want to correct CRJ, we can record it on the CPJ. Now, differences noticed when January's and June bank statement were compared. We've already done this. Now, next one, credit card sales appear on the bank statement as 32,000. We need to note it's 32,300. But in the CRJ, it appears as 23,000. The bank statement is correct. Bank statement is correct, but our books are wrong. It means we recorded 23 instead of 32. We recorded 23 instead of 32. So we can say here we have understated. We have understated. We can say we have understated. Now, moving forward, remember, if you're dealing with the understating of amounts and the overstating of amounts, remember, if I've understated, I've recorded less compared to what I was supposed to record. If I have overstated, I've recorded more than what I was supposed to record. Now, let us see how to treat this transaction. Now, first thing here, you're given two figures. One is understated, one is correct. You need to find the difference so that you can top up, on the understated amount. Now, if you can check here, we got 9,300. 9,100. How did you get this? It was 32,300 minus 23,200. That is the difference. The difference becomes 9,100. Now, someone will ask, why are we recording this money in the cash receipt journal? The reason is because we recorded less in it, so we must add more in it. Someone may ask again, what if we recorded more on the CRJ? What if we recorded more on the CRJ? Grade 12, the answer would be you first calculate the difference and you record the extra amount in the opposite journal, that is cash payment journal. Transaction F, items in the journals but not in the June bank statement. This item, remember the rule of the bank reconciliation, if an item appears correctly in the journal but not on the bank statement, then you need to put it on the waiting room. We call that as bank reconciliation. Items in the journal, not in the bank statement, should be recorded in the bank reconciliation statement, provided they appear correctly on the journal. EFT number 633 for 24,800 dated 30 June 2022. It is in the CPJ. Now let's see how to record this. As I've said, grade 12s, if it's on the journals, then record it on the bank reconciliation if it's not appearing on the bank statement. Right, you can check that item. We have it there as 24,800. This now becomes our outstanding EFT. Remember, why are we making this as EFT? It is because it was entered after 30 June. Grade 12, we're going to take 1 minute break and then we'll come back soon.
Excellent. Excellence is a habit. Excellence is a quality you have, a quality I have. It's a quality we have when we honor what is true to us. Yes, we are gifted differently. uNkulunkulu akasinganga ngokufana. Excellence is striving for your best. Whenever you have a particular project, test, homework, uzibuze, ask yourself, is this my best? Can I put in more effort? Excellence is striving to be in the top 1% of the area in which you are gifted. And so I challenge you, in every single thing that you do, in every single area that you're gifted in, whether it's sports, it's academic, ucula, whatever that gift is, strive for excellence.
Welcome back, grade 12s, on our 1 minute break. I hope this has helped some of you to settle. The outstanding EFT of 633, if you can see on the bank reconciliation, we were talking about this for 24,800. Now, I was on this one. Why is it not appearing on the bank statement? Maybe a question can come and say, why is the 24,800 not appearing in the bank statement? One of the reasons would be, it is because this EFT was issued or was made after the bank statement was closed. It is written 30 June and our bank statement closed before that. So we record it on the debit side. Remember, all EFTs should be on the debit side, deposit on the credit side. Next item, cash deposit, 34,620. Remember, if I think of cash deposit, I will think of money in. Cash deposit of 34,620, dated 30 June 2022 for sales. It is in the CRJ. Now, how is this recorded? If you can check it, we enter it as outstanding deposits, 34,620. You must remember, the outstanding deposit from the previous month appeared on our bank statement. So this is why you no longer see it here. Remember, I said my credit side is money in, my debit side becomes my money out. Right, moving forward. Information G, the June 2022 bank statement reflected a balance of, then there's a question mark. It means this is going to be our balancing figure. Now, the figures that are given to us, we have our outstanding deposit, we have our EFTs, our debit incorrect amount credited, rectifying an error, and then what we are left with now is for us to get our bank account. Remember, we can't get this bank account if we do not have the final total of our CRJ, CPJ, and then if we also did not do our bank account. Now, we want to extract the totals now. We have our total for CRJ. Remember, these figures are figures we've been dealing with. Check on your CRJ. We have the 36,400, 15,100, and 9.1. Gives us a total there, 108,020. And then we have cash payment channel, 2.8. And then we have 1,250. We have 880, 2,160, as well as 11,000. Then it gives us a total of 115,950. Grade 12s, I hope you've been noting these figures down so that it will be easy for us to move forward. Now, You can check here. Now we need to prepare our bank account. Now, to get our bank balance so that we can use it on the bank reconciliation, we have to take into account the following figures. Now, if you remember on your previous bank reconciliation, you had the credit balance as per bank account. Remember, this becomes our starting figure. This becomes our opening balance. You see it has been put as a negative sign. You have a choice, grade 12s. You can use a T account or you can use a straight line method. Now, from your T account, remember, you are going to record opening balance on the credit side as 49,700. And then now, on the debit side of the bank account, you will always find your total receipts. Total receipt becomes 108,020 rands. On your credit side of your bank account, you will always find the total payments. 115,920. Now, grade 12s, we will check which side is bigger or we'll do our calculation. If you've been using the bottom part, the straight line method, then you need to understand that 108 is CRJ, 115 is CPJ, 49 is our opening balance. Negative 49,700 plus 108,020 minus 115,950. We are getting a negative figure. If you punch your calculator, grade 12s, you will get a negative figure. Negative figure means unfavorable. That's how you know whether it's favorable or unfavorable. It's when you punch it correctly, so you get a negative figure. If you are not familiar with that, you can use a T account, check which side is bigger by saying 49,700 plus 115,950. That will be your bigger side. Then your bigger side now minus your smaller side. You will get your closing balance to be 57,630. And then it will come, remember from carried down, it comes to balance brought down, 57,630. So it's on the credit side. Remember, as I've explained, the credit side of the bank account means unfavorable, means we have an overdraft. Moving forward, now look at our full bank reconciliation now. We had outstanding deposits. We had debit amount incorrectly debited, incorrectly credited. We had rectifying of error, outstanding EFT, and then now we have our credit balances per bank account. Grade 12s, remember, if on the other side you set your balances on the credit side, you must also record it on the credit side in your bank reconciliation. You shouldn't do the opposite because you will lose the marks. Now, how do we arrive at the 55,020 rands? We will check which side is bigger. If we say 34,000 plus 10,000, that is my credit side, grade 12s. 34,620 plus 10,570 plus 57,630. We get it as our bigger side. As you can see, there is 57 and 34, so it's 80 something already. So we have a bigger amount. Right, so a bigger side now becomes 102,820. Now we'll take the total and record it on both sides. And then 102,820. Subtract now. I'm going to subtract 24,800. I subtract 23,000. Now I will arrive at my balance as per bank statement. Now, why is 55 on the debit side? Because this is the smaller side. So now, if you can see here, I must indicate. I will say debit balance as per bank statement because the amount is shown on the credit side, on the debit side. Sorry. Right. Moving forward, 1.2.3. Remember, this is our last question for the activity. Explain why the internal auditor would be concerned, provide figures, and what action he or the owner should take. Now, this is what happened. This is the scenario. This is the case that is provided to you. In July 2022, the internal auditor discovered that CS 977-986 actual total was 44,620. The entry in the CRJ was as follows. If you can check here, this is the correct amount. This is correct. But when we were recording, we recorded this wrong amount. So it means that this money was now understated. So we have an understated income. So just to go back a little bit. We have an understated income here. Now, if we can look at that understated income as I try to go back, right, we're having this understated income, 44,620 minus 34,620. This bookkeeper recorded less instead of more. Now, what is the concern here? They recorded 10,000 less from cash from sales. Now, this is what was done by the bookkeeper. They also deposited less amount instead of the correct amount. Grade 12s, remember, they will, most of the time, you will always find a question regarding the deposit or major problems concerning cash. Now, actions that should be taken now, you need to divide duties. How do we divide duties? The person who deposits money should not be the same person who receives cash. The person who records cash should not be the same person who receives and deposits money. We should also, when we divide duties, there must be someone who oversees all the processes of receiving, recording, and depositing money. You don't just only say division of duties, you need to say more. Second one, you need to control deposit before going to the bank. Now, how do you do that? You now record each and every deposit. Proof must be kept of deposits being received. Now, we come into the controls of bank reconciliation. Why do we discuss the controls? Remember, there will always be this last question in your bank reconciliation where you have to explain, where you have to justify why there is a problem in your bank reconciliation. Now, how do you ensure now that there is no deposit understated, deposit stolen, no fraud in deposit? First of all, you ensure that deposits are done on a regular basis. You ensure that people don't do the same thing. You rotate duties. Because some people will get comfortable in a certain department. Ensure that you rotate duties. If someone used to record, next time the person should receive and then another one should record. Also, you also rotate the times of banking. You don't bank at 12 every day. Sometimes you bank at 5, sometimes at 4, sometimes at 3, sometimes just in different times for an example. Next one, you also provide security when going to the bank. At least 2 people should go. But it depends how much you are banking. If you're going to bank R1 million, then you should definitely hire a security company. Now, we've already spoken to this. Divide duties. The person who receives cash cannot be the same person who prepares financial records or the same person who deposits. Grade 12, these controls are very important when it comes to theory of bank reconciliation. Next item, Use the collection company to collect cash on daily or regular basis. As I've said, grade 12s, if you're having millions in your bank account, if I'm Pick n Pay or Spar or Woolworths, definitely I would never send someone because we are making a lot of money every day. I will always hire a security company, cash in transit, to come and make the deposits for me. Right. Now, next point, as bookkeepers, as accounting people in a business, we need to ensure that we check all documents. We ensure that our receipts are being checked against our deposit slips. And then again, grade 12s, there should be a senior personnel. It should be an owner. It should be a manager who will always verify all transactions via internet banking. Also verify those against the deposit slips. And that particular manager will ensure that, or will check whether those deposits are appearing on a daily basis. Now, we can make an arrangement with the bank, request for an SMS notification to ensure no matter how little cash is, we ask for our SMS notification. Now, we can also use this strategy, of which it works. Most businesses are now using it. Tertiary institutions are using it. We encourage all our debtors to pay using EFTs or make direct transfers or swipe. Right. Now, grade 12s, we have said a mouthful regarding bank reconciliation. We will step off bank reconciliation now. We will now go to our creditors reconciliations. We'll be looking at the reasons for the differences. Now, what we will be focusing on, sometimes there will be mistakes made on the source documents. There will be casting errors. We are talking about understating of an amount, overstating of an amount. We will also refer to our incorrect amounts on the ledger accounts, where we have posted incorrectly. We have recorded incorrectly in our ledger accounts. We'll have to correct that. And then we will also looking at amounts posted on the wrong side, on the incorrect side. Remember, in our creditors reconciliation, we expect to see our returns on the debit side. If we see them on the credit side, we will have to make proper corrections, proper reconciliations. Now, next one, we will also look at the incorrect balancing of ledger accounts. If the ledger accounts has not been done correctly, we will be doing that. Remember, what are we? We are the correctors of the books of the business. We are also trying to assist our supplier to correct its own books. Now, there are many types of mistakes that can take place. There are many types of errors that can take place in the creditors reconciliation. Let's look at the first one. There could be exclusion, a transaction not entered at all. Remember, the word omission means excluded. We may have an item that is entered to the correct side of the wrong account. There's a debit and a credit entry, and then we record the balance. Then we record the balance. Right. There could be errors of principle again. An item is posted to the correct side of the wrong type of an account. For an example, cash paid for repairs is debited to an asset account. Next one, we may be having error of original entry. An incorrect figure is entered in the records and then posted to the correct account. We will be looking at this. We'll refer back on what kind of an error is this. Right. We may also have reversal entries. Reversal of entries. The amount is correct. The accounts used are correct. but the account should have been debited, but it has been credited, or vice versa. Now, this is very important. If you may, you need to note it down, take a picture. If we have an error, incorrect entry in the creditor's ledger, we are referring to an amount wrongly credited. How do we correct it? We need to record it on the debit side of the creditor's ledger because it doesn't belong there. We record it on the debit side. Now, overstated amount on the debit side of the creditor's ledger. If we've recorded more on the debit side, we now record the difference on the credit side. We calculate the difference, remember in red there, we calculate the difference first and we record it on the credit side. These are basic principles of reconciliations. Please note them down. Please make some notes. Understated amount on the debit side of the creditor's ledger. If you can see here, we need to first, remember if it's overstating or understating, we first calculate the difference. That's the basic principle. And then we record on the debit side or on the same side. Now, returns entered as purchases. Debit note entered as an original invoice. Remember when I don't want to say returns, I can say debit note. If I don't want to say purchases, I say original credit invoice. Original credit invoice. Remember, the source document for creditors control, for the creditors allowances, for the creditors journal becomes our original credit invoice. Right. If returns are entered as purchases, that means it would have been entered on the credit side. Remember, purchases are entered on the credit side. We will double the amount on the debit side of the creditor's ledger. Now, we are looking at our activity 2 now. This is the creditor's reconciliation taken from the KZN Trial Exam 2022. Right. Moving forward. 1.2. Creditors reconciliation. Veli Traders. If you can see Veli, this is us. Buys goods on credit from Kuze suppliers. This is our supplier. So it's them. The information presented is for June 2022. Now, what are we required to do, grade 12s? We are required to reconcile, to correct the creditor's ledger account of Mkuze suppliers in the books of Veli with the statement received by completing the table provided in the answer book. Now, we will put a plus sign or a negative sign. Remember, grade 12s, if you don't put any sign, that becomes a positive. This is where, grade 12s, you must remember not to use a pencil or not to erase. Please make your sign clear, whether it's a plus or a minus. If you don't put any sign, then we assume it's a positive. Now, what we need to do here is to commence with the provisional balances. That is for 11 marks. This is the creditor's ledger given to you. You can look at it for a few seconds. Received from Kuze suppliers. Grade 12, you shouldn't be worried. All of this information will be displayed to you as we solve a transaction, each and every transaction. Now, this is the statement we've received. You can also look at it for a few seconds. Grade 12, as you are looking at it, remember the last figure that you see on your statement. That becomes your starting balance if you do your statement of account. It becomes your starting balance as you try to reconcile. Same thing applies to the creditors ledger you saw previously. The last figure on the balances becomes your starting figure. We are looking at the differences noted now. Let us look at the first transaction. We will now check how it is supposed to be treated or how it is supposed to be recorded. Now, we have invoice number 44 that was recorded incorrectly in the creditor's ledger. We have entered this money incorrectly in the creditor's ledger. Let's check. On your left-hand side, you find your creditor's ledger. On your right-hand side, you find your statement. Now, check the statement. It is showing the correct amount, 23,220. But our creditor's ledger, it shows an incorrect amount. Remember, this is us, and then this is them. So whenever I asked we made a mistake, then you need to say it's the business or it is the statement. Remember, us is the business. Right. Now, let's see how this is supposed to be entered. First of all, remember grade 12s, we always, just like in the CRJ and the CPJ in the bank reconciliation, we always start with our opening or provisional totals. Now, our provisional totals for creditors ledger, it was given the last figure on the balance column, 86,990, and then for the statement received, it is 115,260. Now, moving forward, I'm just going to go back a little bit. Now, if you can check here, how do we record this? First of all, we have understated this amount. If we understate now, we will have to record the difference. Remember, the first thing we do if we've understated an amount, we need to find the difference. Now, for our difference, now we will say 23,220. This was the correct amount, minus the wrong amount of 13,220. If you do your calculations here, you will remain with your 10,000 rands. This will become your 10,000 rands. I hope you've punched your calculators, grade 12s. Why are we putting a plus and why are we recording on the creditor's ledger? Because the creditor's ledger made a mistake, so it must be corrected there. Why is it a plus? Because this was an invoice. Remember, invoice increases our balances. Returns and payments will decrease our balance. Right, moving forward. The statement did not reflect the discount for early payment on the 10th. This will be rectified on the next statement. Remember, when we're doing bank reconciliation, I said if the bank agrees to rectify, then it becomes their problem. Now, as you can see, the 2,250 becomes our discount. It's saying that the supplier did not record this. So we must correct it for them. How do we correct? Remember, discount will decrease the balance. So therefore, we record putting a minus sign. Why a minus sign? Discount decreases the balance. Now we are moving forward. ValueTrader's bookkeeper omitted invoice number 55 by mistake. So now, ValueTraders, remember, it is us. This is our business. ValueTraders is our creditor's ledger. If you see on the statement received, they've recorded on the 12th, invoice number 55. On the debit side, 16,920. How do we enter this? Remember, this is an invoice. If an invoice is omitted, then we need to add because our invoice increases the balance. Whenever we buy on credit, we are increasing whatever we are owing. So it becomes a plus 16,920 on our creditor's ledger, on our side as a business. So our balance is now extra. by 16,920. It was discovered that invoice number 56 on the statement is for the goods ordered by the warehouse manager for personal use. So our manager has ordered goods without the permission of the owner. Our manager here has abused his or her power. The manager is facing disciplinary hearing. We normally expect an internal control question regarding this on how to prevent this from happening. We'll come to those answers later on as we conclude our creditors reconciliation. Now, as you can see, there is an invoice for 3,000. Now, that invoice, remember, it is not appearing in our books because we didn't know about it. The bookkeeper didn't know about it. It was not authorized, so it's appearing on the statement. So, but then, for now, since we're having disciplinary action against that particular manager, we will take that as our expense, as our liability. Right, now, how do we record? As I've said, we will have to own to that. We don't have a choice. We will record this. Later on, we may recover this amount from that particular manager. Remember, how do we recover it? There are many ways. We can deduct from the salary of the manager. We can ask the manager to pay immediately. Now, why a plus 3,000? This is because it is an invoice omitted. It's an invoice that was not recorded. It was supposed to be recorded, even though it's for personal use of a manager. But he ordered using our account. What are we learning from this? Even though the person order, as long as the person used our name, the person used our invoice records, then we will have to own up to that particular liability. Right, so our creditors are increasing by 3,000 on top of what we had earlier. Right, now the goods valued at 2,940 were returned on the 18th. It is shown as a debit entry in the creditor's ledger as well as the statement of account. Now, remember what we say. If we record on the debit side, they must record on the credit side. If they record on the credit side, we must record on the debit side. Now, let us look at this. The invoice we're talking about is on the 18th, 2,940. How do we record this now? Who made a mistake here? It is the statement. Remember, for the statement, all returns should be on the credit side. Our returns as a business creditors ledger, all returns should be on the debit side. So we were correct. The statement or the supplier was wrong. So they need to correct this particular item. Remember, this is the type of error where a debit note or return has been recorded on the wrong side. How do we correct it now? We're seeing here, they said minus 5,880. How did they arrive at that? It is 2,940 that is supposed to be subtracted. Remember, we added. Now, to undo additions, we must subtract. So we'll subtract for the first time to correct what we have done wrong. And then we'll subtract for the second time to record the returns. Remember, returns are supposed to be subtracted. This is why we are recording twice, because we recorded on the wrong side. Grade 12, you need to remember, items recorded on the wrong side, we correct it on the right side twice. Now, difference is noted. Invoice number 77 on the statement was an error made by Mkhize suppliers. These goods were not purchased by Valley traders. Now we're having an amount of 11,580. It was made by Mkuze Suppliers. Now, the supplier made an error here. It is not our problem, it is their problem. So what we need to do now, we are going to record or correct our statement balance. So it means, remember, an invoice is previously added, is initially added. So to correct it is to subtract it. So hence we are seeing 11,580 as a negative. Right, we're having differences noted here. The statement was received on the 25th of June 2022. We're having a debit note, 2,940. We've already spoken to this. Invoice number 66,21,360. Now, how do we record this? Remember, this money, this invoice happened on the 28th. If you can see, the date says 28th. The statement closes on the 25th. Any transaction that happens after the 25th will surely not appear on the current statement received. It will appear on the next one, provided it is the correct amount. So now, what we need to do, we will correct the statement balance by recording. Now, why are we recording on the statement? Because it appears on the creditor's ledger. It doesn't appear on the statement. So we correct. Why are we recording a plus sign? Because this is an invoice. If an invoice is not recorded at all, we need to add. Now, grade 12, we are going to look at our full creditors reconciliation now. What we've been doing on Roman figure 1, remember the 10,000, remember the 2,250 that we're supposed to subtract on the statement, 16,920 plus 3,000. Look at the rest of the figures. Now, our creditor statement should balance with our statement of account. It means we have solved the problem here of not having these accounts balancing. Now it's 116,910, 116,910. Grade 12, we are doing a lot of activities today. We are looking at activity number 3. On our activity number 3, we will be focusing now on our Northwest Trial Exam 2022. We will take a minute, grade 12, and read the information here given to us. You are provided with the account of Dabula Wholesalers in the creditors ledger of Sizwe Traders. The statement received from Dabula Wholesalers and the statement reflects transactions up to 29 May. Now, 1.1.1, we will be looking at the creditors ledger account in the books of Dabula Wholesalers and the creditors reconciliation statement on 31 May 2022. This is for 13 marks, grade 12. What we will do now, we will take just 2 minutes for you to go and freshen up, and then we'll come back.
Excellent. Excellence is a habit. Excellence is a quality you have, a quality I have. It's a quality we have when we honor what is true to us. Yes, we are gifted differently. uNkulunkulu akasinanga ngokufana. Excellence is striving for your best. Whenever you have a particular project, test, homework, uzibuze, ask yourself, is this my best? Can I put in more effort? Excellence is striving to be in the top 1% of the area in which you are gifted. And so I challenge you, in every single thing that you do, in every single area that you're gifted in, whether it's sports, it's academic, ucula, whatever that gift is, strive for excellence.
Welcome back, grade 12s. We were looking at 1.1.1 for 13 marks. Let's move forward to the next slide. Information A, look at the information given to you, creditor's ledger. Just study the information, grade 12s, 1 May up until 30 May. Remember the grade 12s, I said the last figure. If you'll remember well, the last figure we have of 23,759 is our opening or starting balance as we reconcile. Now we're looking at our first additional information. Invoice number 1345 on 5 May was incorrectly recorded as 2,430 in the creditor's ledger of Sizwe. I will look at this later on. Now, how do we see it? It's there on our creditor's ledger, 2430. In the statement received, it is shown as 3,330. On our side, it's showing as 2,430. Right. Now, what we've done here, they are saying we have incorrectly recorded it, but they've correctly recorded it. Remember, this is what you do when you write your exam. You need to highlight what you need. Now, let's look at the information. We're having our information there, as I have stated. How do we enter this? First of all, we have recorded less. It means we have understated. If you've noticed, grade 12s, we keep on repeating the same thing here. An invoice understated, you first find the difference and then you add. An invoice understated, you first find the difference and add. Now, if we say 3,330, which is on the statement received, the correct amount, minus 2,430, which was the wrong amount, then we get a difference of 900. Now, we need to top up our 2,430 by 900 rands. And then we also put a plus sign. Why a plus sign? Because this was an invoice understated. Great. So we're moving forward to our other additional information. Sizwe Traders qualified for a discount on the payment made on 13 May 2022 as per agreement. Dabula Wholesalers forgot to deduct it and apologized, indicating it will be brought into consideration in the next statement. Now, as you can see, grade 12, they've apologized, they've acknowledged their mistake, they will rectify, they will correct, they will bring it into their attention. Now, let's see how to deal with this. Look at the information. This is the discount that was not recorded by our supplier. Now, this is what they've done. They've only showed the EFT of 17,530 without showing our discount of 850. Now, let's look at how it's supposed to be done. Remember, grade 12s, we say discounts will decrease the balance if it's not recorded at all. We say payments will also decrease the balance. Returns, which are debit notes, will also decrease the balance. This is why now we are recording 850 on our statement balance. Why statement balance? Because the statement balance forgot to deduct. It is their mistake. Remember, before you record grade 12s, ask yourself, who made an error? Who made a mistake? If it's us, then we stay away from the statement. If it's them, we stay away from our creditors ledger. Now, we are subtracting 850. Why are we subtracting 850? Because discount decreases the balance. I'm saying this many times. Now, information C, invoice number 1350 for 4,800 on the statement received was an error made by Dabula Wholesalers. This invoice was not issued to Sizwe Traders. Now, let us look at this. What's happening here? There's an invoice here of 4.8. They are saying here it was an error made by Dabula. Remember, Dabula is our supplier. How do we deal with this? This invoice was not supposed to be there. So Dabula added this amount. So how do we rectify it? We must rectify it on the Dabula side. On the supplier side, we need to subtract to get rid of the amount. We need to subtract to get rid of the amount, because the invoice does not belong to us. Now, we're moving on. We're having a credit note number 860 was recorded incorrectly by Sizwe Traders. There is 1,200. Let's look at the answer, how we're supposed to do it. Now, because we recorded incorrectly, it becomes our problem now. This is on the creditor's ledger. We recorded a credit note as 1.2. It means we have subtracted. We have subtracted less. We have subtracted less. Now, we have not actually subtracted less, but we have recorded on the wrong side. So if you can just look at this, this is an amount recorded on the wrong side. So this has been entered on the wrong side. Now, remember, grade 12, what we said earlier, we said all returns should be shown on the debit side. Now, we have recorded this return as an invoice. We have shown it on the credit side. How do we rectify it? We need to record it twice. If an item is appearing on the wrong side and is correct, it belongs to us, we record it twice. How do we do it? It is 1,200. We subtract, and we also subtract another 1,200. All in all, we're subtracting a total of 2,400. This is the amount recorded on the wrong side. Moving forward, additional information, E. Invoice number 1,401 does not appear on the statement as it was issued after the statement date. Remember, statement date is 29 of each month. Now, this one is showing on the 30th. So it is also an invoice. If I see the word invoice correctly appearing, I think of adding. It's 4,350. It is not on the statement, does not appear on the statement. Anything not on the statement, I must make it appear on the statement balance. Now, if you can check here, the 120 is before this. We will have 4,350. So it should be appearing there. It's a plus. For now, we're not looking at the 120. Now, grade 12, if you can go back and think on your statement of account. You can just go back to your statement of account. There's an interest. There's an interest on overdue account. The 120 is that particular interest. This is the interest on overdue account. Remember, the interest will only appear on the statement. You will only see the interest on the statement. You won't know it immediately because they are the ones charging us. So you will see it on the statement. We call this a silent transaction. They won't say anything about it. You must know that interest on overdue account on the statement received should be recorded on our creditors ledger account. Now, what learning here again is that interest will increase the balance together with our invoice. Interest will increase our balance together with our invoices. Now, let's look at the complete creditors reconciliations now. Grade 12s, you can check for letter A, we're having 900 rands, which was added. If it's in bracket, it means it's subtracted. There is B, we're having information C, 4,800. And then we're having the 2,400. Remember, we have subtracted 1,200 twice. And then information E, we just dealt with that. There's an invoice that was not recorded by the statement because it has closed already. So we need to update the statement balance. So it is a plus. And then the 120, remember, if you go to your statement received, you will see there is an interest on overdue. Please, grade 12s, don't miss those items. Interest on overdue. If you do your bank reconciliation, do not mix your debit order, your bank charges, your interest on favorable or unfavorable balance. Now, grade 12s, I just want to go back to our catch up. If you will remember well, we had our invoices, our interest. Invoices, our interest. We say we add them together. If we go back again, we had our returns and payments. We also subtract. Returns and payments, we subtract. Grade 12, I hope you are noting this down. Returns and payments, we subtract. Invoices and interest, we add. If we can also go back and refresh, I'm just highlighting what was important in this lesson, in these activities. If returns are recorded on the wrong side, we are definitely going to subtract it twice, because wrong side for returns, it means it has been added. That is the credit side. Wrong side for the invoices, it means it has been subtracted. That is the debit side. So what do? You are going to record it twice. You're going to add it twice. Now, moving forward, just want to go back and take you back to what we've already discussed. If there's an invoice that doesn't belong to our business, remember, we are going to subtract, get rid of it. To go back a little bit again, if we're having a discount that is not recorded, remember, initially a discount is supposed to be subtracted. If the discount has not been subtracted or has not been taken into account, you need to subtract it as long as it appears correctly. Now, let's look at our next item. If we're having an invoice that has been understated, I'm going to talk about understating as well as overstating of an amount. If an invoice has been understated, remember, we first find the difference and then we add the difference. In this case, an invoice was understated in our creditors ledger, so we will record the difference in our creditors ledger. Moving forward, just going to go back a little bit again. Remember, what we said on activity 3 again is that our balance at the end. If you can think of the 120, remember we've been speaking about the 120. This is the interest on overdue. This is the interest on overdue account. It means they charge us interest. Why would they charge us interest? Because we do not pay on time. Now, one question that was on your exams, on your junior exam, they asked you what must be done to ensure that creditors are paid on time. Remember, grade 12s, we are used to the question that says what must be done to ensure that debtors are paid on time. So please, grade 12s, remember that they can ask a question about debtors, they can ask a question about creditors. Right, if you can go back a little bit to activity 2. Activity 2, what we also noted are very important points. It was also the correction of error. It was also the money understated, money recorded on the wrong side. If you see here on information C on activity 2, we talked about the debit entry. They've recorded 2,940 on the wrong side, so we had to record to subtract twice. These are just similar activities. Now, grade 12s, I'm just going to pose a question for a few minutes, for 2 minutes, and then you will come up with answers. Now, the question is, what can be done to ensure debtors pay on time? Just going to give you 1 minute to answer that. Slide down, Ashish. Welcome back, grade 12s. The question was, what should the business do to ensure that debtors pay on time? The responses would be, for the final exam, for any exam that you'll be writing, would be charge interest for those who are paying late, send statements to those who do not pay accounts or to all debtors. We can even phone our debtors on a weekly basis, reminding them about what they need to pay. We give discount to those who are paying early. We even grant trade discounts to those who are buying in bulks. Now, grade 12s, I just want us to go back and look at other questions that they may ask here. One manager working at the stock department or the ordering department has ordered goods for himself without the authorization of the owner. What should be done now? If one of the workers, the trusted worker, valuable worker, orders goods for himself, we are saying that our manager must never order goods for himself without authorization of the owner. Now, what can you do to ensure that this doesn't happen? Our answer would be all orders must be authorized by the owner. Records should be checked by the internal auditor on what was ordered or by any personnel appointed to check them. Any worker who orders goods should not be the same worker who records. We need to do our creditors reconciliation every month to identify such personal use ordering items, ordered items. Now, grade 12s, just going to go back to our last slide. we have discussed almost everything for our lesson. This was our activity 2, remember, those who missed it. Continuation of activity 2. If you've missed the figures, starting of our activity 3. These were our items. Activity 3, continuation. It's our additional information. Information A, information B. And then we were also given our 850. We have already spoken to these items. Now for our activity 3, then we've come to our final slide. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching this lesson. See you next time. Goodbye.